station.
To noon, Ben Goessling joining us in just moments. I do want to remind people, though, 11 a.m., we're going to have head coach Kevin O'Connell here in studio, weekly X's and O's with head coach Kevin O'Connell. I need some talkbacks. Free iHeartRadio app. Use that microphone. Give us up to your best 30 seconds. A question for the coach as we look forward to the border battle and the finale of the 2025 Viking season. A question for the coach, a talkback of the day. Please send them in, and one of them, I'm going to read through them, listen to them, and we're going to play one for the coach as he joins at 11 o'clock.
And he's followed by John Hines, coach of the Wild. Meanwhile, joining us now, Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com, at Ben Goessling via X, into the season finale versus the Green Bay Packers, Sunday at noon, KFAN. And Ben's segments are sponsored by and have been all season by Standard Heating and Air, standardheating.com. What's the Access Vikings off-season plan? The very popular, sometimes controversial podcast. What's the off-season plan? And good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, we'll keep at it during the off-season. We'll have probably more content during the off-season than we have in the past. We've kind of gone on a as-needed basis in the past. I think that'll probably be more consistent. I would assume probably at least every couple of weeks, maybe a little bit more often. We're a couple times a week during the season. I would think we'll be probably more frequent than the every couple of weeks thing this offseason. We'll have some new things coming that should be kind of fun.
What about the newsletter?
The newsletter will keep going as well.
Weekly?
Probably not weekly.
Weekly?
But it'll probably be, again, more frequent than it's been. I think last year I kind of
don't sell this organization short, by the way, because they might give you the opportunity. You might have to do it weekly, given how busy the offseason could be. Let's keep this newsletter going.
That is probably true. There's generally enough going on. In the busy stretches of the offseason, we're kind of full up like we normally would be. And this could be yet another offseason where we have plenty to talk about, I think.
Hey, I saw a tweet yesterday, and I don't want to forget this because I know somehow it impacts part of your covenant, most likely the professional covenant, but that also can always get into the personal situation. And here's the question. What's big with the Star Tribune not being printed in Minnesota?
Yeah.
And that's like new, right?
That is new. It just started on Monday, I believe, was our first edition not printed in Minnesota in the history of the newspaper. So pretty significant change for us. The printing press in, just kind of along the Mississippi River is now closed. The Star Tribune decided to stop doing that and have the paper printed in Des Moines, Iowa. So the upshot of that is that the print edition is probably less of a focus for us than it has been probably at any point in the Star Tribune's history. And some of that is the natural change in the business. People are getting their news online more often. So the shift for us is more towards digital content. It's more toward kind of the 24-hour news cycle online where we are updating the website, obviously, and then there's digital content, podcast, videos. I mean, a lot of these things that you're seeing the Vikings people do are going to become a little more widespread throughout the paper. But the costs of printing the paper, I think, got to the point where they said this is more efficient if we just do it elsewhere. It means our print deadlines are earlier. It's going to mean that fewer late sports scores get in the print paper. So the print paper is going to become more of an anthology of the things that we've done throughout the week, and the updated stuff will be more digitally focused.
Well, I was going to ask, and certainly in the industry, you've had to drill into numbers and you figure out via circulation plus the clicks, and you're watching. You mentioned the standards or the normalcy of your readership and views is certainly trending more digital.
Yep.
And you kind of answer in a way just how your workflow changes based on deadlines and potentially at the sacrifice of updated content for a certain percentage of your readers that still, I mean, we just had Pat Micheletti on. I see Pat when he would come in studio all the time, and he's always got the sports section stuffed in the back pocket of his jeans, and he's got today's lines. You guys don't have Korean baseball lines typically in the strip.
Not to my knowledge.
Pat has to go elsewhere for that. But the idea of some of that updated information, that's just not going to be available kind of with the efficiency, I guess, in this case of changing the location of print.
Yeah, it does change a lot of that stuff in terms of the immediacy of the print products. And we still get the Sunday paper at home. I still enjoy reading the print product. I grew up reading it every day. Grew up reading Royce and Barrero and Sid, obviously. So that is a part of my upbringing and part that I welcomed and relished, and things are going to be different. And I've gone through this where I've worked at online outlets. I was at ESPN and obviously coming back to the newspaper. I think from a workflow perspective for me, it actually makes for longer days, believe it or not, because you're not sitting there with a deadline of this has to get done for print. So this is the best I have at this hour of the day. I can take more time and do, the length limits, the deadline limits are not the same when you're not trying to hit a print deadline. So in some ways it actually leads to, my game stories are going to get longer. They probably already have, not sorry editors really, but, those things, I think, change the workflow for me a little bit in the sense that when you're in the digital world, you're not constrained by the things that you typically are in print. So for depth and breadth of content, it's probably actually a good thing. But the times, they are changing, as Hibbing's own Bob Dylan once sang. So, yes, a lot of this is kind of changing with it.
So if there's like this game coming up Sunday at noon, for the print edition, okay, so it's noon. Story can be filed 5:30 or 6, depending on the length. Does it still work like this, where a sports editor, associate editor, whatever, tells you, Ben, we need 19 inches, for the Vikings Packers story. Okay, and
19 inches.
And what's funny?
If my editors are listening to this, they're like, he hasn't filed a 19-inch story in years.
But does it still work that way?
Yeah.
You're
still talking about column
inches. I'm so old school. When I started at the Pasadena Star News in 1989, I was very fortunate to work on the copy desk. Yeah. So I edited a lot of people's stories coming in. It really helped learn the importance of the pithy nature of phraseology, the English language, avoiding non-essential clauses, things like that. So with that said, if it's 19 inches and you go 21, how do they determine what to cut?
Well, it's not,
especially if you're on deadline.
Yeah, it's not the same as it used to be, where in the old days,
no pica poles.
They're not just physically hacking off the bottom of the story. That used to be what happened. A lot of it now is you're doing it digitally, of course, and you have an inch counter that's in real time. If you take a couple words out, it goes from 21.125 to 20.875 or something like that. If you take a couple sentences out, so it tells you exactly how far you are over the length limit at all times. So you can do a lot of trimming, and a lot of it, with apologies to our 11 o'clock guest, is the quotes are a little verbose.
What are you saying?
At times. He sometimes the ... and the paraphrasing. The ellipses sometimes is useful when transcribing Mr. O'Connell. So sometimes that becomes a thing.
Within the last year, I did a podcast with Jim Suhan.
Yeah.
And Jim and I are close to the same age. We're both older than you.
Yeah.
When you started writing in the newspaper business, Because Jim, I think, was fascinated that I knew this about old school newspaper. And I think he knew that I worked in it for 5 years. But like when you would send your stories, that there was a computer device called a trasher.
Yeah.
You remember the trasher?
I didn't have to work on one. I've heard a lot of stories about the trash 80s.
And then, and you would send stories with couplers on phones, and it would sound like what the fax machine used to sound like. When you would call a certain number, it would send your story via the phone.
Right.
If there was a bad phone connection, it would be what was known as garbled. And you had to resend it. So, did you ever get to see that or experience that?
No, I didn't.
Because that was everyday life.
I didn't, and I've heard enough stories that when people talk about the newspaper as being the daily miracle, I mean, there's still a lot of coordination and moving parts that have to happen very efficiently to get the paper out. But in those days, it's like, how did you guys do it? Like, the technology feels like it would have been so unreliable that, people having to call in and dictate their stories.
Right.
And, people got it done every day, but yeah, the technology certainly has, like a lot of things in life, has made it easier to get things sent in a expedient and precise fashion.
Go ahead.
Well, the technology growth. So prior to getting into radio, I had switched from a completely different career and trying to get on. Ultimately, I get my foot in the door on the news talk side. Well, for extra coin, because I completely started over in life, I'm delivering in those little green trucks on the weekends. And what was that, 2nd Street or just right off behind Washington, or maybe 10th Street or 10th Avenue?
Star Tribune trucks?
Yeah, I was driving one of those little green trucks,
Fantastic.
dude. Yeah, North Minneapolis, downtown, and Nicollet. That was my route. And but inside that building, when you're seeing, just those giant reams, and there were so many people working overnight, and it was just, everything else is just shutting down. And at 3 a.m., this place is coming alive. It's just impressive, really, the scope, and even you get it, thousands, tens of thousands of papers. The scope of putting that together. I kind of appreciate how the cost has ballooned over the course of time.
Well, newsprint has gotten more expensive, all of those things, but the people that worked in that heritage plant did fantastic work. And those people, as part of this, end up losing their jobs. So just to spare a moment for them as they go through this transition, they've done fantastic work for a long time, doing something that is kind of an essential part of our community, making sure that the newspaper shows up every day. I mean, it's people putting the content together on the front end of it where I am, but it doesn't get to you in print without those people doing their jobs on the back end. So, shout out to all of those folks who are going through a tough time right now, but, incredible work that they've done over the years, and, wish them the best as they go forward.
And here's a piece of advice where I actually had my hand in that for probably 2.5 months. All right. And it was weak what I did back in 1986. I was 22. Just out of high school, just starting Pasadena City College, and about to start with the Pasadena Star News as an intern. And so therefore, I think it was in Diamond Bar, California, or Pomona, something like that, right off 57. One of my first jobs was working at an ancillary Los Angeles Times facility like Nordo just described, where it involved inserts. Okay, so newspapers have inserts.
Ads.
Yeah, well, I just started as insert guy. All right, so it's May or June.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a massive Boston Celtics fan. I played basketball through junior college. Had just moved from the East Coast to Southern California. Everybody loved Magic. I even tried to cater my shot after Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Just off my right ear. Well, so anyway, it was Lakers and Celtics, man. It was unbelievable. Yeah, man, I got to be there at 8 o'clock until midnight doing the inserts. Well, the game, I think a deciding game from the Boston Garden began at 7:30 or 8 or 7. I'm like, this sucks. Got no phone to follow. Nothing. So I'm 45 minutes into this job, inserting into the LA Times for the calendar section for the weekend. And I just left. I said, I got to take a break. I took a 15-minute break, left the job.
Go see the score?
No, I went home. And never came back. I mean, it was as weak as it gets. 22-year-olds, I'm sure, have executed weaker situations than I just described.
Actually,
but when you described that heritage plant and Nordo driving the green truck, it took me back to '86, unbelievable NBA Finals. I think Magic won it with the baby hook at the Boston Garden.
Yep.
And I'm like, I can't do this. I have to leave. And I just left and never came back.
Yeah, my dad's, I think one of my dad's first jobs as a kid was working at a hot dog factory back in the 70s. And he has a similar story where he worked there the first day, went to, saw how the sausage is made, and went to lunch and decided, nope, I'm done. I'm not coming back. They'll figure it out. Didn't call anybody. Just said, they'll get the gist. I'm probably not the first one to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's crazy.
No, just impressive though. Again, that operation and the need for change, what it impacts, positives and negatives.
Yeah.
But part of that, when I was driving the green trucks, I got upgraded to an opportunity to drive a Sprinter van out to Wadena to drop off a van load of paper that I think they would go to Fargo or Alexandria, obviously outstate areas.
Yep. Wow.
But just now I got to picture that all those trucks coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, what a process just from a logistics standpoint to have that happen on a daily basis. I know we're getting too nostalgic here. But
weather we had for the first run
Not
of
at
that.
all.
Coming from Des Moines to here with the snow. So it made
goodness.
it.
I mean, there probably are a fair amount of 30-year-olds and under listening right now, wondering when the McCarthy finger terrorism talk starts, Jalen Nailor's unrestricted, just so many pertinent Vikings topics.
Yeah.
And they will. But this is not a finger wag, old people get off our lawn type conversation. But there was a time where the evening news, 60 Minutes on the weekend, and the daily newspaper was everything.
Yep.
It was everything. And cracking open a newspaper was, I mean, it had immortality to it. It still does.
Yeah.
It's, just look at this, the beginning stages of this game calling depth chart that I do. I mean, I could do it via PowerPoint. I mean, I could, like all the other boxes that I see around the league, I like to write it.
Right.
Because I'm writing it, I'm looking at something, then I'm looking at it again, then I'm looking at it again, and it helps with the quick twitch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When handicapping horse racing, I can go to drf.com, dailyracingforum.com, handicap right off that. I would prefer to print the past performances, sit down, get the right light, and handicap them that way. I feel the retention is dramatically better than just boom, there it is, write it down one time, move on.
Yeah, there have actually been a lot of studies on this that we are better at retaining information when we get it from a hard copy. I mean, this is, kids studying for school, that sort of thing as well. It's just probably there's fewer distractions. There must be something about how your eye picks it up as well when you're reading it in a hard copy as opposed to digital. But yeah, that's a thing.
Well, I'm even dinosaur style. I can't do Kindle or Nooks, and so many people do those like the ebooks.
Yeah.
I'm old enough, even at 41, I'm grandpa style. Like, I have to have a physical. I like having books.
Yeah.
I like filling shelves with books and having the physically turning the page.
Yeah.
If I just do like on an ebook on a tablet or something like that, I start to like fall asleep after a half hour. I need to be physically engaged with it.
Yeah.
So more old people talk, I guess.
Yeah. Right.
I love it.
I'm with you on that. And I like reading. Now, I'll read the Bible quite a bit, and I can find Bibles with bigger fonts, to make it so if I got the right light, I'm going to be, a week from today, I'm going to be 60.
Yeah.
And I have not given in and really had the need to give in to cheaters at this stage. God, for whatever the reason, has blessed me with good vision where I don't need to use, are they called cheaters or readers or both or whatever?
Readers, cheaters.
However, if my eyes are a little tired and the font is 11 or 10 or below, like a lot of books, then I'm with Nordo. I want to sit down. I like the smell of the books. I like turning the pages. It has a nostalgia to it. But if the light ain't right and the font's not big enough, I'm not going to those cheaters until I absolutely have to. But it keeps me from reading a little bit like that.
Yeah. There are.
What do your books smell like?
Kind of a new car smell.
Oh, yeah.
Like you buy, I think the last book I read was Laura Hildebrandt's Unbroken.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get a new book.
Great book.
Like I'll buy Christmas gifts at Barnes & Noble. and you'll see a book and it hasn't really been opened or touched that much.
Yeah.
And you like flip through the pages and you kind of get a smell to it.
There's a little new book smell.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the old smell of the newsprint in the newspaper. When I first worked at the Star Tribune, like there's I mean, you know what it is. That smell of ink or newsprint or whatever it is. You walk in and the whole place smells like it. So I can still like think of what that smelled like.
It's reference immortality for Barrero, who is, quote, an ink-stained wretch, end quote, from all the way, back in the day when things like that mattered. All right. Because the Minnesota Vikings are 8-8, is the Vikings defense not only truly one of the very best in the NFL, but one of the league's most underrated stories because of that middling record?
Yeah, and I think that's probably right. It's probably an underrated story. It's probably the reason this team is 8-8 and not 4-12 or something. I mean, there's a lot of games that defense has kept them in, and some games that defense has all but won for them. I think the Lions game, in some ways, when that offense got the ball in Lions territory as much as it did and didn't have to drive a long way until that Jordan Addison run. I think the longest drive the offense had all day was 29 yards, and that ended in a punt. So that defense, getting the takeaways it did, getting the stops it has throughout the season, that is a lot of the reason they have a chance to finish with a winning record on Sunday. Yeah, it has been really impressive to watch what they've done. I think, they got a lot more attention last year because they were 14-3, the takeaways, the Cam Bynum viral dances, all of that kind of stuff. But this group has been put in so many situations. We've talked about it a lot this year, but where it's, hey, you have to go back out and make another stop because offense, it was 6 plays, 12 yards, and now they're punting the ball away again. And you have to go out and just answer the bell once again. So the fact that this group has done it to the degree that it has, and especially in the second half of the year, has been awfully impressive to watch. And it's probably not being talked about a ton. We'll see how much is talked about with regard to Brian Flores and a head coaching possibility. But it has been as impressive of a defensive showing as I've seen.
Are we sure off, at least one run of trying to become a head coach?
Yeah.
Like last year, where he didn't get a sniff.
Yeah.
I don't think he got an interview.
He had 3.
He had 3.
Yep.
Okay.
It was the year before, I believe.
Yeah, the year
where he
before
did
was
not have
nothing.
an interview.
Thank you.
Correct.
Okay. Are we... How much conviction do you have that he really, really wants to become a head coach?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday, speculating. I don't know what he makes. I don't care what he makes. This has some blank check terrorism to it if he stays here.
Yep.
It feels like that. But, getting to know him and his family a little bit, and where they live and how immersed within the sports programs they are, how much they love the schools here.
Yep.
I'm not as certain that Brian is as dead set to become a head coach and go through that whole rigmarole again as some others think. What do you think?
So I've talked to him about this a couple of times, and he is unique in the sense that he spent the first 15 years of his career or whatever it was in one place, which, you guys know well, most coaches don't do that.
Right.
Most coaches bounce around to 5 places in 8 years, or, if they're lucky, 3 in 10 or something like that. And he did that, and then he goes from New England all that time to Miami to Pittsburgh to Minnesota in the span of like 5 years. And when your family's growing up and they're not used to that, I think that took a toll. So, yes, I think he's going to be picky. I think it would take the right fit. It would take the right situation, probably for both him and a team, for it to happen. Otherwise, I know he has enjoyed working here. I know he feels like, when you have as much say in this defense and as much leeway to be innovative, be kind of a cavalier in some ways. I mean, talking to players on Sunday, I had that conversation with Harrison Smith and Blake Cashman in the locker room of the number of guys that come in to this scheme like, really? We're going to do this? And it takes a long time to be like, yes, we are going to do this, and it can work if you commit to it and you get all the details right. But no, it's not as crazy as it sounds. There are not a lot of places that would just be like, the defense is yours to craft as you wish to that degree. So I think some of those things are attractive to stay here. And like you said, I think the connections he's made in this community have been something that may play a big role in this as well. I know he wants to kind of see what the market looks like and see how things shake out. Yeah. But yeah, I think there is a lot of appeal for him to stay here as well.
Nordo brought something up yesterday that I hadn't been thinking about, and I've thought quite a bit about it since he said it, and it involves Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Where if the Tomlin run is over, because that year as kind of Tomlin's right-hand man, just to decompress after Miami and Stephen Ross and Brady and the yacht and the lawsuits and the whole thing. That was a vital year for him.
Yes.
And
it's probably the reason this defense exists the way it does, because he met Pat Narduzzi and started picking his brain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Seifert did a big story in this maybe a year or so ago. But, because they share a practice facility with Pitt. And Pat Narduzzi is like the king of all of the hot coverages and hot zone stuff, where it's playing zone coverage behind all of the blitzes and saying we're not going to cover everything. A lot of that stuff that they run now is because of that year he was in Pittsburgh.
Well, the difference would be, so say Tomlin's bored with it, done.
Yeah,
I believe the Rooney family would give Brian a big chance to become the head coach.
Yeah.
But Mike has morphed into the ultimate CEO.
Yeah.
On the side, he's not calling any plays.
Yeah.
I mean, he's handling everything with everything. And I'm not saying Brian's not capable of doing that. Brian ain't rolling in there to be the CEO.
No,
he's rolling in there to be the defensive play calling head coach. I got TJ Watt here. I got all these guys back here.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's a different situation. But it did resonate with me the way he put that.
Yeah, I mean, there is, I think that would be a place that would make a lot of sense. I know that year in Pittsburgh was something he enjoyed and appreciated, and some of those connections with the Rooneys, with that organization, I think were genuine. But it is that question of, do you want that life, so to speak? Do you want to be the guy that, hey, the marketing folks need something, or, the owner wants to talk on Monday about how did everything go? Hey, you called this on 3rd and 8. The analytics would suggest that you probably should have gone this way. What were you thinking there? I mean, do you want all of that?
No.
That's going to take you away from just being able to do football. I remember talking to Mike Pettin about this when Kevin O'Connell got the job, about he needs somebody that can tell him, I will take care of this stuff because I've been a head coach before.
Yeah.
I can talk to these people and pass it along and tell them what you're thinking. You need an hour where you can just shut your door and go grind film. So that is harder for head coaches to do in this day and age, especially, than it probably was in the past, because there is so much of a CEO component of this job.
Yeah.
So do you want that? Do you want your life to look like that? I think is part of the question everybody has to ask. It is not all, hey, the paycheck's bigger, the spotlight's bigger. I mean, those things are true, but there's also a lot more that goes into it that I think you have to kind of figure out if it's the right fit for you and where you want to go in your career.
Well, that's a great point with Tomlin, too, because when they had Dick LeBeau there, who had been the DC with Cowher.
Right.
And it's very rare that a coordinator would stick around. But well-respected dude with tons of equity.
Yes.
I think he coached into like his 60s or 70s.
I think it was his 70s.
And they used him, and I've just reading fan fodder and various things, just Rube-like of me. But a lot of people attribute kind of some problems with that like losing that stone-cold lock defensive coordinator, despite Tomlin's great defensive mind, creating issues, post LeBeau, finding the next answer there.
The face of the franchise part, that's big.
Yeah.
I mean, think about O'Connell, okay? Mondays, let's say 12:30 press conference. Tuesday, X's and O's.
Yep.
Contractually obligated or not.
Yep.
Wednesday, into the next game press conference.
Yep.
Thursday, maybe some national stuff, some McAfee, stuff like that, maybe. Friday, post-practice press conference. Yep. Into the weekend. Saturday, say we go on the road, we do a lot of our, granted, this whole thing's 10 minutes, but pregame tape and production meetings with TV networks that can last a half hour.
Right.
Then game, press conference after game. A family, by the way.
Yes.
Get ready for the next week.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a lot now that we think about it. All right, we're going to fade to black on this segment, and when we return, more with the Scribe on KFAN. I dozed off at halftime of that Monday Night Football game last night. Kirk O'Chain's in Atlanta, absolutely throttling the Rams. Rams came back, made it an interesting game. Atlanta won the game. In totality, how did Cousins end up looking? And if he did something like egregious, and I haven't looked at the box score or anything, apologies, but I thought he looked pretty good.
He looked fine. I mean, I don't think he made any big mistakes. And I mean, Bijan Robinson was kind of carrying the whole operation. I mean, he kind of drove that bus.
Reality, fantasy, he was carrying a ton of people last night.
Drove both Nordo and me to fantasy titles, it sounds like.
Heck yeah.
Covenant clap for winning a fantasy title, by the way. Those things ain't easy.
No, they're not.
So I wonder if in any way like that impacts the Rams into the postseason. I mean, I know that they couldn't get the 1 seed, but
it was 5 or 6 seed is what they're vying for.
Right. Yeah. No Devontae Adams. They had a couple of offensive linemen down. I mean, that just feels like a push button operation, right? Get Adams back, get those 2 offensive linemen back, make one big run. Would you pick them to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC?
I like them a lot because of the coach and the quarterback. I mean, they have a better combination of that, and obviously those things make a big difference in the playoffs. They have a coach that's won it. They have a quarterback that's won it, and if you get Devontae Adams back, it makes a big difference. But I like them as much as anybody in the NFC. It's harder when you have to go on the road, but it's going to be a lot of teams in their division that they're going to have to beat if it's the Seahawks that have the 1 seed, and obviously the 49ers are part of that too. So I think even if they have to go on the road, I mean, I think they did it the year they won it with O'Connell as the offensive coordinator.
At it now.
I think they had to play through the first round of that.
Well, they won at Tampa Bay.
Yes.
In a game they had no business winning.
Right, with the Cooper Kupp long catch and run.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And Antoine Winfield Jr. maybe got lost a little bit. He was kind of in the clutch that game. They beat Kyler at home. In the wild card, and then they went to Tampa.
So like a 3 or 4 seed or something.
Yeah, something like that. So, no,
then they played the Niners at SoFi.
Right.
I think.
And they had not beaten the Niners in
They did
ages.
get to host the Niners.
Yeah, and the Niners, I mean, they had more fans than the Rams in that NFC title game.
Yeah, they did.
All right, to the local team to finish. Will Harrison Smith play next year?
My thought most of the year has been no.
Right.
I've thought that he was going to be done, but the last 2 years, I've thought the same thing. He was, I remember talking to him in the locker room in Detroit at the end of 23 and thought, boy, I have not seen, and I've covered, his first year was my first year on the beat. I realized this week. This is my 14th year covering him. I've covered him longer than any athlete in my career, and probably won't cover anybody as long as him. The idea that I'm going to cover somebody else for 14 years is probably fairly unlikely. So
same here.
He's probably the athlete I will have covered the longest of any stretch of my career. The last 2 years, so I say that to say as long as I've covered him and have a pretty good feel for him, I think. But to have a feel for him is also to know that he's unpredictable. And I remember him crying in the Detroit locker room, think, boy, this is not something I've seen from him before. I think he's done. And then he comes back. And I think that was the famous send Chris Thomas in the Prince picture year. If you look it up, if you don't know it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
The greatest Twitter exchange ever. Then the next year, I thought he was done. I remember texting him, and he writes back, I wish I had a Prince photo to send you. Should have filmed this short. So like, does that mean you're back? Yeah, it means I'm back. So the last couple of years, he has surprised me in that sense. I think even, the last week, I thought this is probably the swan song. I mean, it depends on how he's feeling, how his family feels about things, but he can still play. I mean,
if there's no Flores, there's no Hitman.
I agree with that. I think it's going to have to be Flores here for him to think about it. But I could see him going, you know what? I feel all right. I think I could still play. They still want me. What the heck? Let's do one more. It would not shock me because he is one of these players, I think, that has heard this from other players that went before him, that play as long as you can because once you leave, it's done, it's over, and you have the rest of your life. So there are players that will say, as long as you can be on the ride with teammates, you got to grind through the season, but the highs of winning games like they did on Christmas Day, you don't get that back. So I wouldn't be shocked, I guess. I think I'm more open to the possibility that it would happen. It's obviously not my decision, but I would be less surprised by it, let's put it that way, than I would have been maybe a couple of weeks ago if he played.
Into this finale, then, are we we're on McCarthy watch all week, right?
Yeah.
Like, just, is he going to play, and what's up with the hand, the grip strength? It's really coming down to his ability to physically grip the football, kind of the A topic with the position, I suppose.
Yep, that'll probably take the week, and it'll probably take a while for us to know who the starter is going to be. But yes, they want him to play if he can.
Border battle subterfuge is what it is.
Well, it could be that too, I suppose. But yes, the Packers are probably going to sit on their starters, so probably not going to be the most climactic border battle ever. But yes, I think they want to see him. They want to get one more for him, as Kevin O'Connell said yesterday. I think it will depend on the grip strength.
Do you expect Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen both to be back with the team next year?
I do not. I think they have salary cap questions that are fairly big, and Javon Hargrave especially, they'd save a lot of money if they were to release him. I would think that, I mean, the money they save for Allen is not that much because of how the dead money works out. So I would think Allen has a better chance to be back than Hargrave. I don't think they're both here. Hargrave would be the name I'd kind of have an eye on in terms of a possible cut.
Lastly here, do you think they drafted Ty Felton as Jalen Naylor replacement insurance? I mean, Felton has 3 catches this year. Now, if you take, they came into the season clearly thinking Jefferson, Addison, Naylor, Hawkinson, Aaron Jones.
Yep.
So you can draft somebody 3rd round and not, immediately get them up to speed as the replacement. That's why you have the next offseason. But do you see it that way, that they took Felton thinking, wow, from a cap standpoint, we may not be able to sign Jalen Naylor?
Well, I think there's probably some of that because you spend all the money in March and then you go into the draft in April knowing that you're may not going to have the room to sign Jalen Naylor, especially if he has a good year, which he has. I think the way they're probably looking at it now is there's a good chance Jalen Naylor gets paid by somebody and they can't afford to keep him. So whether or not they drafted him for that reason, I think some of it was they wanted the catch and run guy too. That was going to be Rondale Moore. And I think Felton has some of that to him. So I think there was some of a, let's get another flavor in this wide receiver group to an extent. But yeah, I think it will turn out that way. I think Felton, and I know they've felt good about some of the things he's done in practices and kind of behind the scenes. I think the hope would be that he does kind of turn into that because I think it may work out that way.
Did I miss the All Vikings all-time piece? Was that Christmas Day?
Yes.
Damn, man. So you can go online and see it?
Correct. Okay. Yes. And they did some cool design. They basically, anybody they picked on the team, it's like a Topps trading card where you can click the back and get the stats. And so the design was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. StarTribune.com. All right, man. Hopefully we'll see you next week at 10 o'clock at KFAN.
Yeah.
After that, you know how it goes, man. We're low-key here. You need time away from radio. You just want time to decompress from everything. Just let us know.
Yeah.
But we love having you each and every Tuesday.
I love doing it. We'll keep it rolling. Thanks, guys.
Ben Goessling, Tuesdays here, Friday with Barrero, courtesy of Standard Heating and Air. Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. 15 minutes from now. Don't leave.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. News du Nord is always brought to you by Canterbury Park, Canterbury's Card Casino, the casino at Canterbury Park, where you're playing, you're feeling the felt each and every day, 24/7, poker, blackjack, and table games. I don't know when Derek Allen's working, but if you see him at Chips, make sure to tip him, potentially in chips. Can you tip people in chips at Canterbury? I think you can.
Yes, he is supervisor guy today. I think sweet. Beginning at 5. And he'll be back at Chips. He'll be 3rd floor paddock bar tomorrow if you want to spot up a little bit on some tele-racing.
Minnesota Wild, we're going to get to hear from the head coach. Already chatted with Pat Micheletti during the first hour. They are at the Sharks for a mid-afternoon affair tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Puck drop, you're going to get to hear that here, I believe, on your home for Wild Hockey, the Fan. But last night, I mean, you want to talk about 4 points between the Marcus Johansson, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Matt Boldy line. It was a beauty, 5-2. Just a beatdown, dominating effort over the Golden Knights. The Wild, we're just past Christmas here, but the Wild, third place in the Central, you're starting to see this top three separation between what the Wild, Stars, and Avs are doing. Avs still completely untouchable. And the rest of what is starting to appear to be a very mediocre and mid-lane NHL Central Division. So that's something to watch. Very excited. Something to watch and listen to. Wild at the Sharks tomorrow. Head coach John Hines is going to join us around 11:30. And then last night, the Minnesota Timberwolves also in action. You would have gotten to hear that on your home for Wolves basketball. The Fan right after the Slovakia Team USA affair. I believe the Americans won 6-5 in that one. And the Bulls, at the Bulls. I was really pumped last night, PA, to see Kobe White. And you're LFL trained and raised. You brought me into this. You've guided me along this LFL journey.
What were your fondest 5 minutes?
Are you kidding me with Kobe White last night? Calf injury.
Right when I tuned in, he hurt his calf.
Yeah, he played 6 minutes in the game. But the story, Naz Reid, 30-some points, and maybe a sub-story that's really cool as part of that. I think it was 14 dimes from Julius Randle last night as well. So Wolves bouncing back from the bad Nets game prior to that, and they are at the Hawks. Also, an afternoon affair tomorrow, New Year's Eve, 2 p.m. tip-off. So get those LFL lineups started and set early, ladies and gentlemen.
Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
We get to see Nah.
He hit 6 3-pointers last night. He's had an awesome season for the Atlanta Hawks. That's a really toothless defensive team. Jalen Johnson's one of the real underrated stars in the NBA. Why is he underrated? Because he plays for the Hawks, and the Hawks ain't very good these days. Well, last night, from an injury standpoint for the Chicago Bulls, if you are a hardcore Timberwolves fan and you are looking for a serviceable point guard to give you maybe 18 to 27 minutes a game, and you want to pick on Chicago because Diusomu, however you say his name.
No idea.
Trey Jones, Apple Valley, Josh Giddey, and Kobe White. Okay, they have 4 there who can play the point. White went down with a calf last night, and Josh Giddey hurt his hamstring, and I don't think it's good. So they all of a sudden, Kevin Huerter, by the way, is a tweener. He plays point and 2. So they have a bevy of ball handlers who can play 1 or 2, but they lost their best 2 last night.
Yeah, I
don't know. So that, if you're looking to pilfer that team for any kind of a point guard, it got a little dicey last night. Timberwolves, I thought, were well below average, fair amount the first half. Then Anthony Edwards got pissed off. They put the pedal to the metal. I swear they outscored this team like 110 to 58 from 1 point of the second quarter all the way through the end of the game. It was an impressive display once they started rolling. So we know they have it in them, and that was cool. The Wild, thorough domination. The Pacific, the Western Division, whatever it's called,
Pacific,
wants nothing to do with the Minnesota Wild. I think the team's like 10-0-1 or 10-1-2 or something against the West, against the Pacific. And now they play a different brand of hockey out there, but the Wild were up 5-0 before the midway point of the game.
Yep.
I mean, it was just utter butt-whooping last night.
No, it was a beautiful thing. It was not a butt-whooping, but the Falcons...
2 minutes.
There's actually an interesting bit here where apparently, and they said this on the broadcast, I wasn't aware, so I thought Panthers-Bucks was just winning in.
Yeah.
But it technically, I guess, is not. So the Falcons beat the Rams last night, 27-24.
Yeah.
And Stafford threw a few picks. Still should be favored to be MVP, but we'll see. Drake May right on his heels. Cousins, 13-20. $126 didn't have to do much because Bijan had 229 total yards and a couple scores. And we had a blocked punt for it. It was actually, or a block kick for a TD from Jared Verse. It was a really entertaining game. Falcons get out 7-9. Well, apparently, according to the broadcast last night, the Falcons, if they are to beat the Saints on Sunday, and that's probably one of the nooners, and then, of course, Bucks and Carolina are playing Saturday afternoon, I think. If Carolina loses to the Bucks, so the Bucks are celebrating Saturday night.
Yeah.
we've won the division. Actually, no.
Really?
If the Falcons beat the Saints on Sunday,
wow,
because of a 3-win tie, 3-team tie, there's some sort of tiebreaker that still pushes the Panthers into the postseason.
Right.
So even if
Atlanta cannot win the division.
No, they cannot.
Yeah, that's right.
So they're eliminated, but they can play spoiler to the Bucks. If the Bucks win against the Panthers and the Falcons finish 8-9 with a win over the Saints, the Panthers, regardless of that loss on Saturday, would still go into the postseason. So
we are on Kevin O'Connell watch.
Minutia.
Yeah, that's nice. We have a couple of head coaches going back to back. First, Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, about 5-6 minutes from now. Followed by John Hines, coach of the Minnesota Wild, calling us from the West Coast about 11:30, 11:35. You're listening to 9 to Noon at FM 100.3 KFAN.